All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to class once again. I'm so happy to have everyone here once again. For the sake of time and for the sake of work, we might not really have all the time for pleasantries. We'll just go straight to the class. Then in the evening, if we have the time, we'll do all the pleasantries. So please, if you don't mind, if you can hear me clearly, please, I will need you to help me type 11 in the chat room. This class is meant to be for 1 hour. 30 minutes. So by 6:30, we are expected to leave here and get back to work. All right. And if you've not taken your bath for work, maybe you could be combining two things at once. You could be taking the class at the same time, trying to brush your teeth. And then if you need to go to toilet and ease yourself, just be doing those ones so that when we are done, you just pour water on your body and then off you go. If you're using a shower, you can also put your phone or whatever thing you're using close and then take your shower. Then be sure you're ready for work, especially for those of us in Lagos. I know by if you miss anything 7 o'clock, you're possibly going to go to work late. So please let's try to multitask. But in subsequent time, please, before this time, I will suggest you take your bath and make sure you're ready for work so that as soon as we are done, you are off to work. For those of us that have started work anyway. All right, so thank you so much and welcome once again. We've taken time to go through the fundamentals of this course, and we've started the 10 knowledge areas. Please, I would like to remind us that we're using the Project Management Book of Knowledge, the 6th edition. Someone was asking me yesterday if it is 2006. I said 2006. 2006 should be 3rd edition. We are well over that. This is 2018, and that's the latest edition. So the next edition is expected to be coming out by 2021 because it comes out every 3 years. Okay, so for those of us going for level 3, you are to have the 20 you're supposed to have the 20 you'll be having the 2018 a project management body of knowledge, right? Okay, and also I gave a little recommendation that for those of us that have already paid for our manuals, that have our manuals, please go through the 90-page manual that was given or that was provided, such that it will be easier for us to interact and go through this course altogether. All right. We'll take questions at the end of this class. So I will have to be fast because I would like to get done on or before 6, so that if we have anything to do on or before 6:15, we should be out of this place. So when we started with the project management knowledge areas, we started with integration management, where we dealt with the 7 processes. And we said project integration management has to do with coordinating all project activities towards the successful execution of a project. And we say the final product or the baseline that is produced during the integration management is the project plan. Please, can somebody communicate with Adamu Yavga? He said, I'm hearing nothing. Please tell him to be sure that his microphone is not muted, and also that his earpiece or whatever device he's using is well working. All right, thank you. So In the integration, we talked about the 7 processes, where we talked about planning the plan project management. Then we'll have developing project charter. Then we'll have develop project plan, direct and manage project execution, manage project knowledge. Then we'll have perform integrated change control, then close project office, right? Okay, then in the scope management, we dealt with how projects can be broken down into tasks, all right, or into simpler tasks for the purpose of easy manageability. And we also dealt with the different processes there, where we talked about the plan scope management. Then we talked about collecting requirements, defining scope, creating work breakdown structure, verifying scope, and then controlling scope. And then we also talked about project time management, where we talked about how to ensure the effective use of time towards project completion. And one of the things we said is if projects are lagged, they can affect the project cost, and they can also affect the project scoping. If projects are fast-tracked, they can reduce the project cost and reduce the project scope. Whichever way, the most important thing is for us to understand the project time model that works best for our individual projects. And we'll also try to look at the different project life cycles and their relationship with time. We talked about the iterative cycles, the agile cycles, the hybrid cycles, and the other cycles, and all of the relationship they have towards time. So this morning, we are going to look at project cost management. Project cost management. Project cost management. So project cost management, just as it sounds, is just about ensuring that cost is well managed, budget is cost is well estimated, and budget is well managed towards delivering the project objectives. That's essentially what we are up for in project cost management. So let's quickly look at what we have here. Project cost management includes the processes involved in planning, estimating, budgeting, financing, funding, managing, and controlling costs so that the project can be completed within the approved budget. Please, I would like us to take notice of certain key words here. Project cost management is all about planning, estimating, budgeting, financing, funding, managing, and controlling costs. And all of these costs to be controlled are going to be within approved budget. Now, some of the issues that project managers have is that project managers, most often, they go on carrying out projects, and most often the project gets to exceed budget. And that's where project managers and stakeholders start having issues. Okay, and project manager will try to justify what he is doing, and the stakeholder will say, but that's not what I asked you to do. So importantly, no matter what we are doing, no matter the changes we are trying to bring in, they all must fall within the approved budget, and that is very, very important. Now, what are the processes in project cost management? We have the plan cost management, which deals with defining how the project cost will be estimated, budgeted, managed, monitored, and controlled. All right. Then we have the estimate costs, which deals with the process of developing an approximation of the monetary resources needed to complete project work. Then we have the determine budget, which is the process of aggregating the estimated cost of individual activities or work packages to establish and authorize cost baseline. Then we have the control cost, which is the process of monitoring the status of the project to update the project cost and manage changes to the cost baseline. Now, please, I want us to notice something here. In estimating cost, there are some things, since this is a slide, there are some things that will not be contained here. So please, I will refer us back to our manuals to go through all these processes and understand the mathematical expressions that are served in the manual. They are simple mathematical expressions. Now, in estimating cost, we are dealing with the approximation of each of the tasks, the financial implication of each of the tasks. At determining budget, we are running an aggregation, we are running a summation of all of those individual costs to make up the budget. Now, importantly, it is good to know that we only raise a budget estimate or estimated budget before project starts. We can only define actual cost spent in a project after the project has been completed. So inevitably, when you're carrying out a project, it is important that you make room for allowance, for reserves. We talked about reserve analysis the other day. So you make room for it. So you create rough orders, okay, that can allow for the management of contingencies. Okay, so if your budget is, let's assume your planned budget is 120 million. According to project estimation, it is important that you create a rough order that, or create an allowance or a reserve that will take care of contingencies as they come up. So your 120 million is perhaps the planned baseline, the cost baseline. It is not the actual cost. So if that's 120 million, you can based on the influencing factors towards your project and the anticipated risks, you can give a magnitude of allowance you want to give, or magnitude of allowable estimate you want to give. So if your project is 120 million, you can go for 10% plus 10% or plus 20% or plus 25% based on the identified risks and cost estimate. All right. Then at the end of the day, who is this person asking for attendance list? You just came to class and you're asking for attendance list. Adamu, is it how you do? Then we'll have determine budget, which is now the aggregation of all the costs coming together. Then quickly, let's look at key concept for project cost management. Key concept: project cost management is primarily concerned with the cost of the resources needed to complete project activities. Project cost management should consider the effect of project decisions on the subsequent recurring costs of using, maintaining, and supporting the product, service, or result of the project. For example, limiting the number of design reviews can reduce the cost of project, but could increase the resulting product's operating cost. All right, and so it is important we create the difference between project cost and product cost. They are two different things. When you're producing a project, every cost associated with producing the project deliverable, producing the project's product or service or result, that is the project cost. So the costs accrued in delivering of the product, in maintaining of the product, in marketing of the product, and all of that, that's the product cost. So product cost has to do with cost of service or cost of delivering of the goods or services to the customers, while the project cost has to do with all the costs associated with the initiation down to the close of the project phases. Now, if you could remember very well, when we started with project processes, we said there are two categories of project processes. We have the project-oriented processes and we have the product-oriented processes, where the project-oriented processes has to deal with all the processes associated with initiating down to the closing of the project phases, while the product associated processes has to do with all the processes involved in delivering of the product, maintaining of the product, marketing of the product, and all of that. Okay, so we also have to, that means we have to differentiate between cost of production versus operating cost. Cost of production in this case is what we are regarding as the project-oriented processes, while cost of operation are what we are regarding as the indirect cost, okay, or the recurring costs. Then we have another aspect of cost management is recognizing that different stakeholders measure project costs in different ways and at different times. For example, the cost of an acquired item might be measured when the acquisition decision is made or committed, the order is placed, the item is delivered, or the actual cost is incurred or recorded for project accounting purposes. So project stakeholders have different ways of measuring project costs, all right? And let me give you a simple example. Some project stakeholders, as soon as you agree on a price of a particular or the fee for a particular project, some are willing to pay you immediately because they believe that, oh, the report or the project plan they have, and based on the kind of person they have as a project manager, they don't have issue. Then you have other project stakeholders that will tell you, okay, what is the basic requirement, financial requirement that you need? So maybe out of 120 million, they'll first of all give you 1 million. Okay, so they measure the project progress according to the volume of money they've given. Then you have those that you will tell, okay, this project is 120 million, but we'll have anticipated contingencies that may cost us 150 million. They will give you 150 million and tell you, okay, if the contingencies come up, take care of them. If they don't come up, then let's find a way to reconcile. All right, so we have different ways that you even have those that will tell you, okay, go and get the money and start the work, we will pay you. All right, so there are different ways that project stakeholders handle cost. And as project managers, it's important that we understand the place of documentation. We spoke about scope management, where we spoke about collecting stakeholder requirement, right? So it is important we understand the place of documentation, and we also understand the place of requirement management plan, all right? Requirements management plan in cost management, all right, in cost management. And all of these things are important when we are looking at different stakeholders and how they view performance and how they view costs, right? Okay. Quickly, let's look at the trends and emerging practices in project management. Okay, I became a certified project manager in 2012. Now, in 2012, we were using the project management standard of fourth edition. We are using the third. That was when fourth edition came out newly. So we are using the third. We are trained by third edition. Now, by the time we came out in fourth edition, we found out that some things changed. All right. Then by the time we came to the fifth edition, we found out that Project Management Institute added another knowledge area. So in the third edition, we are talking about 7 knowledge areas. In the fourth edition, we are talking about 9 knowledge areas. In the fifth edition, we are talking about the fifth and sixth edition, we are talking about 10 knowledge areas, right? And it keeps graduating in that measure. Now, if you check the processes also in each of these knowledge areas, for instance, you find that in project integration management or project scope management, we are talking about 5 processes in 2013, 2014. By the fifth edition, we're still talking about 5, 6 processes, but in the sixth edition, we're talking about 7 processes. So the processes kept on increasing. Before, we're talking about 42 management processes, totally 42 management processes, but now we're talking about 50-something management processes in project management. So the trends keep changing. The trends keep changing. Now, before 2012, nobody was talking about the agile project management. All right, nobody was talking about agile project. Nobody was talking about the hybrid structures. Nobody was talking about matrix structures. But now, in the present environment, we have the hybrid structures, we have the agile processes, we have the iterative processes, and all of that. So all of these things have to be considered in all of these things has to be considered in the emerging trends of project management. So within the practice of project cost management, trends include the expansion of end value management to include the concept of end schedule. End schedule is an extension to the theory and practice of end value management. End schedule theory replaces the schedule variance measures used in traditional EVM, which is end value minus planned value, with ES and actual time. Now, if you check if you check the 5th edition, we were not talking about end schedule, and we are not talking about actual time. We were rather talking about schedule variance, although we still have schedule variance, but we were not considering schedule variance as part of, or perhaps we're not considering end schedule as part of the concept in schedule variations or schedule variance. Then we're also not considering things like actual time. But in this particular time, we'll now look at end schedule. Since we have end cost, all right, or end value, then there must be a corresponding end schedule for that. All right, and what is end cost? End cost or end value is actual cost or versus actual work done. Actual cost versus actual work done. So if there is actual cost for actual work done, then there should be an actual time spent for the actual cost and for the actual work done. All right. So that's why we'll now talk about the actual time and the end schedule. All right. So that's very, very important for us to understand this trend. Now, quickly, let's look at some tailoring considerations. Since we started this class, I've not really talked about tailoring consideration, but one of the major trends in the present day project management, where agile project management is taking most of the practices and is becoming more of the evolution in project management. So we now have what we call tailoring. Before now, we're not talking about tailoring. Okay, but tailoring has become a major concern. What is tailoring? Tailoring is trying to say that each project is specific and therefore should have standard approaches, standard procedures, standard methodologies to it. Like, for instance, somebody was asking a question about the processes or the standards that should be involved in solar installation. All right. Then I had to tell the person that these things are technical issues or technical based approaches. So if you are a civil engineer, you find that your tailoring approach to building using project management standards, processes, and procedures will be different from someone who is a project manager in an oil and gas. The standards will be different as the industries are different, or different from someone who is in the educational sector or someone who is in the medical sector, and every sector will have to tailor their own standard to their respective project. Even with the fact that we are tailoring, we are considering industry-based projects, company-wide projects, we should also understand that while we are doing this project within the industry or within a framework of an organization, different projects have different specifications. All right, so when tailoring, you need to consider these specifications with regards to the specific project. For instance, if I'm running a project on product development, I should be sure that the standards will be different from product launching. So product launching as a project should have its own specifications to that of product development. Okay, and I look at things like human resource recruitment versus human resource training. I should be sure to note that the specifics for recruitment is different from the specifics of training. So I should be able to tailor-made these different projects based on the specifics, based on the objectives, based on the enterprise environmental factors and the organizational process assets and other project influences that will come around it. All right, that's very, very important. So as regards to project time management, what are the tailoring considerations we have there? We have things like knowledge management. Does the organization have a formal knowledge management and financial database repository that a project manager is required to use and that is readily accessible? Then you have estimating and budgeting. Does the organization have existing formal or informal cost estimating and budgeting related policies, procedures, and guidelines? End value management. Does the organization use end value management in managing projects? Use of agile approach. Does the organization use agile methodologies in managing projects? How does this impact cost estimating? Now, governance. Does the organization have formal or informal audits and governance policies, procedures, and guidelines? Now, if you look at the questions here, they are all dependent on the organization. And if you look at all the questions, they are either OPA or EF based. They are either organizational process asset based or enterprise environmental factors based. All right. So while we are also considering organizations, we can also go on the industry-wide approach? Does this industry have specific this or that and all of that? So we have to put all of this into considerations. Now, like I was trying to say, the agile environment is taking up most of the agile environment is taking up most of the considerations we have in the project environment today. All right, so we give considerations today when running projects, because the truth is, why agile project management is proven to be more like a technologically driven approach. The truth is, there is nothing we ever deal with today that doesn't have an embedment or an inclusion of technology. Okay, there is nothing we do that does not have an inclusion of technology. Please, just a moment. I will be with you in a second. All right, sorry for that break. I had some little things to deal with. All right. So how do we bring about, how do we integrate agile and adaptive environments in project? In level 3, more of the things we look at is the agile project management. Okay, agile project management. So it is important. Now I want us to understand one of the characteristics in the economic environment that have been driving different project structures. All right, one of the major things responsible for this drive is what we call the consumer behavior. And everything we do in the economic environment is all boiled down around the consumer behavior. Now, some of the characteristics of the consumer behavior we have today, and which is most pertinent, and that is one of the reasons that the agile environment or the agile project have come to replace the traditional project methodologies. That single human behavior of impatience or consumer behavior of impatience. Today, the present day consumer is very, very impatient, including you and myself. Okay, including you and myself. Now, in the banking sector, there is what they call TAT. Okay, TAT, turnaround. What's that the abbreviation again? TAT. Something from Wikipedia. TAT has to do with the amount of time you spent on serving a particular customer. Now, before we talk about TAT 1 minute, but now we talk about TAT in seconds. Okay, so if you're serving a customer, you shouldn't spend more than 1 minute in serving the customer, because customers of today, they are impatient. Like I said, you and myself inclusive. Technology had made us highly impatient because we want to get things at a split of seconds. Now, with what is going on now, if we ever introduce the 5G, our impatience level will increase. Okay, our impatience level will increase. All right. So in the agile environment, what we want to deal with is provide standards or use standards that can easily match up with customers' expectations at the split of seconds. That's what we want to do with agile project standards. Meet up with project or stakeholders' expectations, customers' expectations at the split of seconds. Now, another major driver to the agile environment is this inclusion of technologies that we are talking about. The more we have, the faster technologies, it makes us believe that things should be done faster. All right, things should be done faster, no longer in the slow motion. All right, so when we are including technologically driven approaches in our projects, we are inevitably saying that projects should be fast-tracked So if a project of 100 days was fast-tracked for 50 days before, in this present era, it should be fast-tracked to maybe 10 days. I don't know how many of us have seen this particular project, a project, is it 30-story building that was built in 19 days? I don't know how many of us have heard of. Okay, I think if we have the time, we'll just get that, that video and watch it. That was a project that was done in China, a 30-story building that was done in 19 days. All right, and that is just a proof to tell you that agile environment can actually deliver so fast. And I was using this particular case as a case study in one of my classes, and someone said, I will never enter that building. The truth is that you don't even know the building, so the day you enter it, you will not know. Okay, and since we are prone to forgetting things, especially quite easily, we get to adapt. By the time you say you will not enter it 1, 2, 3 months, and some of the essential things you need are now in that environment, you definitely have to find yourself there one day. Okay, and by the time your fears are completely deleted, you will find out that that place could be one of the most comfortable places you could go to. So as a project manager, we all need to be agile, irrespective of your industry, whether you're in the banking industry or you're in the telecom industry or you're in whatever industry you want to find yourself or you are currently. The agile project management methodologies, they are purely important in this era that we are right now. So projects with high degrees of uncertainty or those where the scope is not yet fully defined may not benefit from detailed cost calculations due to frequent changes. Okay, one of the importance of the agile environment is that it deals with projects of high uncertainty, projects that has frequent changes to deal with. So instead, lightweight estimation methods can be used to generate a fast, high-level forecast of project labor costs, which can then be easily adjusted as changes arise. Detailed estimates are reserved for short-term planning horizons in just-in-time fashion. In cases where high variability projects are also subject to strict budgets, the scope and schedule are more often adjusted to stay within the cost constraints. So quickly, let's look at the project management, the project cost management processes. Number one, we'll have the planned cost management. The planned cost management is the process of defining how the project cost will be estimated, budgeted, managed, monitored, and controlled. The key benefits of this process is that it provides guidance and direction on how the project cost will be managed throughout the project. This process is performed once or at predefined times in the project. Quickly, let's look at the input tools and techniques that will be required. In the input, we need the project charter, we need the project management plan, and in the project management, we essentially need the schedule management plan and the risk management plan. Then we'll also need the enterprise environmental factors and the organizational process asset. Then on the tools and techniques, we need the expert judgment, where we can use focus group, industry experts, subject matter experts, consultants to deal with this, and we need data analytical tools. Okay, we need data analysis to be able to analyze the information we get. Then we need meetings. At the end of the day, we'll have the cost management plan. Then the second process is estimate cost. Remember, I said estimation of cost has to deal with estimating the individual cost of each of the tasks in a project, estimating or defining or coming up with the individual costs of the task in a project. Like I will always try to make this simple. When you're going to, I don't know how we are all brought up, but in my family, everyone is expected to know how to cook, right? Irrespective of whether you're a boy or girl, it doesn't matter. So if you should know how to cook, in the day you are assigned to cook, you should be able to develop the list. Okay, then we used to call it market list of the things you're supposed to buy. All right, so you cannot just wake up and say, my mom will ask you, what are we cooking today? You say, we are cooking egusi soup. We are cooking yam porridge in the morning, then we are cooking egusi soup in the evening. And say, how much? You say, okay, I think 5,000 will serve. No, that is not the actual, that's not the actual way to do it. In the way we do it, then you have to go and sit down, Maggie, how much you put, you write the individual prices of the components that will make up the actual budget at the end of the day. Okay, and at the end of this whole thing, if my mom was to give you money, let's assume that your total cost was 5,000 naira, she will give you an extra fee and say, in case there are changes in the market, this one should serve. That's where we are now talking about the rough order magnitude. Okay, the rough order magnitude. So at some point, we were not even considering whether she was going to give us any advance or not, but we just know that at the end of the day, if the project, if the cooking expenses for that day is 5,000, you add like 1,000 naira. And when she asks, we tell her in case there are changes in the market. And these are all of the things we consider in contract management or in contract management. Okay, in contract management, you consider economic variations, economic fluctuations, devaluations and devaluations. Those things affect projects, right? Okay, so let me give you an example. Let's assume that you're a project manager handling projects that had fuel as a major resource before 2013, right? I think January 1st, 2013, that was when the price of fuel rose from 65 naira to 89 naira, right? So let's assume you did not include or did not consider economic variations, and you were running a project from 2012 that was going to take through 2013 and probably beyond, and your cost estimate for fuel, petroleum fuel, which was your major component, was say 65 naira, and at the end of the day there was cost variations, and this contract is a firm fixed contract, like it's non-negotiable. You fixed it, is that you fixed it, non-negotiable. You find out that you'll be running at a loss by the time you enter into that kind of fluctuations or variations. So economic variability is always a benchmark when estimating project costs, all right? So the estimating project cost, the process of developing an approximation of the cost of resources needed to complete project work. The key benefit of this process is that it determines the monetary resources required for the project. This process is performed periodically throughout the project as needed. Now, what are the inputs? The inputs for estimating project costs, we'll have the project cost management, or perhaps the project management plan, where we'll have the project cost management, and then we'll have the project quality management, and we'll have the project scope baseline, okay? Then we'll have, secondly, the project documents. Under the project document, we'll have the lessons learned register, we'll have the project schedule, we'll have the resource requirement, we'll have the risk register. Then on the enterprise environment, okay, we'll have the enterprise environmental factors also, and we'll have the organizational process assets. Now, on the tools and techniques, we'll have the expert judgment, we'll have the analogous estimating, parametric estimating, bottom-up estimating, 3-point estimating, data analysis, which include alternative analysis, reserve analysis, cost of quality. Then we'll have the project management information system and the decision-making, where we use voting most often. All right, so I've actually discussed from 1 to 6 in our previous classes when we are dealing with scope management. Now, but there's one thing that we didn't discuss, that was the cost of quality. Cost of quality. Please, it's important to note that the cost of quality, or quality, has its own cost in every product. Let's take, for instance, when you're buying an iPhone, you know that obviously the cost is different from when you're buying a normal Android phone. What is the difference? The difference is in the quality. Okay, another difference, although I don't know how really different this one is. Most often I follow my wife to the market. So recently we went to the market and they said a bag of rice was 27,000. Like they say it was Thailand, maybe Taiwan, one of them. All right. Then another bag of rice was for 22,000 or so. So I asked, what's the difference? They said this one is Thailand or Taiwan, one of them. Then this one is Mama. I said, what's the difference? They said this one is foreign, this one is foreign local. Okay. And I asked for that, what is the difference? So they now started explaining, if you want to have your rice better off at the end of the day, you go for this one. But this one is also good, but it is short after you might have cooked it. I kept on asking, what is the other differences? So you see that For every difference they are giving you, they are telling you a specific value proposition that should encourage you to buy the one of higher quality. Or if you need an option, there is also another, and that's where the alternative analysis come to play. All right, that's where you have all the different variations in cost, variations in quality. There is now left for you to define which one is actually the one you're going for. All right, so as a project manager, it's important you create, especially when you're going for bidding. All right, please don't just go for bidding and have one rigid budget and say this is how it must be. No. In agile project environment, the key word there is flexibility, dynamism and flexibility. So you went for a project, before you even go, please draft at least 3 different proposals with different quality requirements. So if you present the first, your competitors may come up with, or the other bidders may come up with one bid proposal, but you can come up with 3. Then you give different alternatives to the stakeholder. Okay, you stand at a better chance of getting the project than someone who has just one cost of quality. Okay, and there is a possibility that the project stakeholder, having seen that you're flexible, can ask you, is there a way you can build a custom-made quality for me? All right, so cost of quality has its own implication. Cost of production is different from cost of quality. And most often I found that the main project managers or perceived project managers go for project bidding. What they go with is cost of production. So they don't really talk about the cost of quality. Okay, and that's why when someone goes for bidding, they will ask you a question: why is your project cost different from this other person? And you hear the person start saying things like, because our suppliers give us at a higher cost. So if your supplier gives you at a higher cost, I think I should better go with someone whose supplier gives him or her at a lesser cost. Okay, then you start seeing things like, you start hearing things like, because we are going to be deploying people from outside of the country. If you're going to deploy from outside of the country and there is someone that has within the country and that can give me the same value, why do I have to pay you higher to employ? Is it that at the end of the day, my project will be written that it was conducted by people from outside the country? So when you are defining quality, the key word there is business case, right? You remember what we did in project initiation and then down to tendering. The key word there is business case, right? So if your business case is not justifiable, there is no way you can win a project. Okay, so you must have different value propositions of different quality requirements to have to present in a particular business case to be able to have an attention given towards you, right? Okay, so that is very, very important. Okay, then we have a project management information system, okay, which is easy to understand. Then we have the decision making, which is possibly voting. Then we have the output, cost estimates. Then we have basis of estimates. Then we have project documents updates, where we'll talk about the assumptions log and lessons learned register and the risk register. Now, I have a question in the chat room, and I will use this output to deal with them. The person said, sorry, let me get the question. I think the question will help us understand what I'm talking about better. The person said, good morning, boss, but do you know that only one bid proposal is allowed to be submitted in Nigerian system, except if you have internal person to allow that? Okay, now please, I am not saying submit multiple bids, Engineer Shitu. I am not saying submit multiple bids. Now, if you look at the project output, you see a place that says assumption log. When you're going to your bidding, go with your assumption log. Your assumption log is the different quality assumptions you've made. You have your project bid, which you've submitted, but as you get into the bidding room, you will hear project stakeholders ask you, is there no way you can reduce this cost? Is this your last price? Okay, like for instance, the last time I went for bidding, that was with Globacom. And this was a project that we're supposed to have, it was estimated for 300 units of supply. okay, and we were looking at 100 and 105 102,500 for each. All right. Now, when I got there, I obviously knew that there were going to be changes. All right. So when I got there, and they came up with their own, company standard. All right. And there was no need of telling them, no, that is our final base. We cannot do anything. I quickly brought out the other alternatives I had, and I placed it within their table. I said, okay, for this particular course, this is the quality you get. For this particular course, this is the quality, and for this particular course, this is the quality you get. So it is now left for you to decide which one you have. But remember, I gave them the template, the original template that they needed, which was to give them the highest quality. But should they have different quality mindset, then there are also different quality assumptions provided. All right. So when you're submitting, you're to submit one bid, right? Just one bid proposal. But when you're going for negotiations, you don't go with your proposal shouldn't be that rigid that there is no other assumption, there is no other way out. It's either this way or never. Okay. So Shitu, please, I will need you to understand that. Okay. All right. Then we'll have the next one, determine budget. Determining budget, like I said, is the process of aggregating the estimated cost of individual activities or work packages to establish an authorized cost baseline. The key benefit of this process is that it determines the cost baseline against which project performance can be monitored and controlled. This process is performed once or at predefined points in the project. Now, in the input, we have the project cost plan, which will include the cost management plan, resource management plan, and the scope baseline. Then we'll have project document, which will include the basis of estimate, cost of estimates, project schedule, and risk register. Then we'll have the 3 business document where we'll talk about the business case and the benefits management plan. Then we'll have 4 agreements. Then we'll have 5 enterprise environmental factors and 6 organizational process assets. Then on the tools and techniques, we'll have expert judgment, cost aggregation, data analysis, where we'll deal with more on the reserve analysis. Remember, in the determining budget, after aggregating all these costs, I said there should be allowance for rough order to take care of contingencies as they come up, right? Then we'll also have historical information. Remember, one of the trends, the new trends in project management is the knowledge. One of the trends in project cost management is knowledge management. Does the organization have a database where there could be retrieval of former projects done so that we can look at the information and then from that we can make assertions and assumptions, right? So one of the tools we use in that knowledge management is what we call the historical information review. So if you have a documentation of the previous projects that have been done, it's easy to have a pool and say, okay, this is how it's being done, all right? And this is how it's being done. And also, I want you to note something. When you go for bidding, project stakeholders will always have this habit of telling you the last project person or the last project manager that dealt with this was how much he collected, and this was the result we have. The result was even more than yours and things like that. Okay, you can also pull your own historical information, okay, and tell them with relevant facts. So maybe when this person conducted this project, let's use that what's the case now? Let's use that project I was talking about, petroleum price, as a case study. So this project was done when the price of fuel was 65 naira, okay, less than $1. Now, the same project you're talking about now is okay, they said now, according to the news I heard yesterday morning, that unit price of fuel now is 121 naira 50 kobo like that. Now, if you consider the difference, it's almost 100% plus. So you can't compare such prices. And that's why before you go for project bidding, please, I will recommend this. Not just that I will recommend it, I will definitely want you to go ahead and do it. Please make sure you do all your project research and make sure that every facet of your project proposal is well researched on. And one of the research you have to do is on the economic fluctuations. Make sure you have parametric data. Don't just go with analogous estimations. Go with parametric estimation. If possible, go with your, is it what they call it, pro forma invoice. Okay, let the stakeholder knows. Okay, and at some other point, some project managers was okay for the cost implications. If you have a better supplier that can supply these raw materials of this quality at these standards, please go ahead. Let them supply. This is the quantity we need. Let them supply. Okay, then let's do the work, and the cost of the work will be this. Okay, so please do your project survey very well. Do your project research very well. Do your market analysis very well. Okay, and importantly, do your stakeholder analysis very well before you step out. Okay, because some stakeholders can be very wonderful. Now, someone was giving me his experience with the MD of Glue, right? Is it Mike Adenuga? Right, so I think his name is something like that. Okay, so he said he went there for a project bidding, and in his project proposal, as part of his OPA, he stated one of the experiences he had, or that his company had, and when he went for the bidding, he forgot the date that the project was done. Okay, so Mike Adenuga asked him, did you say you did this project? And the young man said yes. He said, what's the date again? And the young man quoted the date that was different from what the OPA said, what he said in the proposal. And the man told him that I don't have your time. Meanwhile, he never knew that Mike Adenuga also invested in that particular project that he did. Okay, so Mike Adenuga believed that, oh, if you don't even know the time that you do the project, that means you are not part of the project. Okay, so when you are going for project bidding, please do your review, do your research, all-round research, do it very well, okay, before you step out, so that you don't just miss out on opportunities. Then we'll have the funding limit reconciliation. Funding limit reconciliation will always have to deal with where there are variations in costs. So let's say we plan for 65 Naira, and at the end of the day, we plan for unit price of fuel at 65 Naira. Now we have 120 something Naira, okay. It is better you use contract types like cost reimbursable projects or economic price adjustment projects, so that when such fluctuations come, you can come back for you can come back for funding limit reconciliation. All right, so where a project was targeted at 65 Naira per unit, now it is produced in the market at 120 something Naira. You have to go back to your stakeholder and renegotiate the economic terms and conditions of that project. That's where the historical information, perhaps funding limit reconciliation comes to play. Now, also, there are also unforeseen circumstances that both you and the stakeholder did not plan about. All right, so let's take, for instance, you are building a project, or you are a contractor for a building project, and you never anticipated that in the course of the project, a high level wind or rain with storm could blow, resulting to a falling of a tree that will fall the building. It is not your fault. It is not the stakeholder's fault. It's a natural factor. Okay, so there should be need to come back and reconcile the cost for further continuation in the project. All right, so that's where funding limit reconciliation comes. Then financing also. Financing here will now look at how costs will be or how project budget will be disbursed. Is it going to be a one-off? Is it going to be a lump sum contract? Is it going to be a firm fixed price contract? Is it going to be cost reimbursable contract? Like as you go on, we'll pay you based on the phases that have been, based on the phases and milestones that have been achieved. Okay, is it going to be on when you finish, we'll pay you, and all of that? So these are things you consider in the financing region. Then on the output, we'll have the cost baseline, then we'll have the project funding requirements, then we'll have the project documents updates, where we'll talk about the cost estimate, project schedule, and the risk register. And finally, we'll have the control cost. If there is something I will tell you here before I continue, there is one basic mistake that project managers make, and especially those that are coming new into the project environment. If you're not careful, your first project as a project manager always have a case. Why? Because you believe that the money you've gotten, maybe you calculated the project at 500 million, and you believe that your project profit or your net return is 100 million. And all of a sudden, you started spending 100 million without having to finish the project before knowing actually whether you have 100 million or not. And perhaps before the end of the project, you could have finished the 100 million. And now there are project contingencies. And let's assume that the project is a firm fixed project or lump sum contract. My brother, my sister, you've entered into a serious trouble that you have to go and produce the remaining 100 million to finish the project, or you have to go and sell whatever thing you use the 100 million to buy to generate the money to finish the project. You don't spend project money until the project is over. You don't calculate your profit until the actual cost of project had been measured and ascertained. Okay? Now, there was a project management training I conducted some times ago for WHO project managers. They were conducting some projects, WHO intervention project in the north. So I had project managers, WHO, Kaduna, Kano, Kastina, Zamfara, Kebbi, Sokoto, all of them came together. There were about 12 of them or so. And while we were in that training, we found out that the KB project manager was not there. So the question was, what is the challenge? And they said something, someone among them said something. He said that WHO was after the young man. I said, what happened? He said the project money that was given to all of them, okay, everybody finished his project and handed over. Now, with the same project money, this young man was still not up to lintel level in his project performance. And what happened? He went to Kebbi State and said to himself, there were no better hotels in Kebbi State. So he came to Sokoto to rent a good hotel and rented an AC-fitted golf that was going to be carrying him from Sokoto to Kebbi every day, to and fro. And he was spending about 15,000 naira daily from Sokoto to and fro, okay, to Kebbi. But before he could get to Linter, he found out that he has exhausted the project resources. Okay, if he had had good control over the resources, perhaps he would have joined others in completing the project and handing over, and maybe would have had better returns on the project. Okay, so before you start spending on project resources, on personal issues, family issues, and the likes, please be careful. There is one name they give to project managers. They say project managers are stingy. Please, it's better to be stingy to complete your project and hand over than to be liberal. And when you go to prison, those that said those that enjoyed your non-stinginess will now say, "Oh, look at this young man. He was very good. Now they've thrown him into prison. We said it. This money he was throwing up and down is not his money." Now, those people will not even remember to pray for you. Even if they will pray for you, it's better to be proactive than to be reactive. Anything that will require spiritual dimensions for you to finish your project, please try to eliminate it from your early start. Plan very well, control very well. Hope you're with me now. Okay, hope you're with me now. I was involved in one project where we were building an Airtel site some times ago, and the project manager was the assistant associate project manager then. Now, the project manager, one of the days I came to site, I was deeply very hungry. My assignment as the associate project manager was administrative. So I was in charge of resources. I was in charge of payment, purchase of raw material, and all of that. Okay, now, when he came to site, there is no way I can spend anything without his approval. So I came to site that day, and I was deeply hungry. And I didn't have much money. In fact, I didn't have money. He too, he didn't have money. We were trying to find a way to raise money to even pay for our hotel bill, because we finished our own, the money that was assigned to us, we finished it, right? So I came to him that day. I said, "Sir, please, can I take 50 naira from here? I need to buy gala. I'm feeling famished." And you know his response? "It's okay. If you can manage the resources to the point of removing 50 naira, okay, so you can go ahead. If you can tell any of the workers here that, yes, please, I remove your 50 naira, tomorrow I'll pay you. If you can manage that, no problem. Or if you can go when you're going to buy something, you tell the person, I'll bring 50 naira to you tomorrow, knowing fully well that we know nobody in that land. We're just strangers in the land, okay? And that thing reset my memory. Hunger disappeared, and we finished that work without having to ask ourselves what to eat or what not to eat. Okay, and by the time we are done with that project that day, we had some other leftovers in the project environment that we needed to sell and make money. We made about 12,000 naira extra that day from spent rods, spent wires, and all of that. Okay, so please control your costs, control yourself. We talk about emotional intelligence every day. As a project manager, emotional intelligence is key. Now, as I round up, I've exceeded my standard time by 1 minute. So let me take 5 minutes more to round this off. Cost control. In the input, we have the project management plan where we need the cost management plan, cost baseline, performance measurement baseline. Then we need project documents where we'll have to pay more attention to lessons learned register. Then we'll have the project funding requirement, work performance data, and then we'll have the organizational process asset. Then on the tools and techniques, we have the expert judgment data analysis. Then under the data analysis, we have the end value analysis, variance analysis, trend analysis, and reserve analysis. Then on 3, we have to complete performance index. Then on 4, we have our project management information system. When we come back in the evening, we'll take the time to explain the components of 2 very well. We'll take the time to explain the components of 2. That's end value analysis, variance analysis, trend analysis, and reserve. No, we've already dealt with. We've actually dealt with majorly everything apart from end value analysis. So when we come back in the evening, we'll deal with that. And please, if you've not gotten your manual, please get your manual and read ahead, please. And for those of us that already have our manuals, please, let's quickly, within the day, let's just go through our manual and find out all of this. Then when we come back in the evening, it will be easier to explain. On the output, we have work performance information, cost forecast, change request, project management plan updates, which the update will have to consider cost management plan or affect cost management plan, cost baseline, and performance measurement baseline. Then on the 5th one, we'll have the project documents update, where we'll have the assumption log, basis of estimate, cost estimate, lessons learned register, and the risk register. Now, important notes as we round up: updating the budget requires knowledge of the actual costs spent to date. Any increase to the authorized budget can only be approved through the perform integrated change control process. Monitoring the expenditure of funds without regard to the value of work being accomplished for such expenditures has little value to the project other than to track the outflow of funds. Much of the effort of the cost control involves analyzing the relationship between the consumption of project funds and work being accomplished for such expenditures. The key to effective cost control is the management of the approved cost baseline. So whichever one that is not approved, please don't go there. Project cost control includes influencing the factors that create changes to the authorized cost baseline, ensuring that all change requests are acted on in a timely manner, managing the actual changes when and as they occur, ensuring that cost expenditures do not exceed the authorized funding by period, by WBS component, by activity, and in total for the project. Monitoring cost performance to isolate and understand variances from the approved cost baselines. Monitoring work performance against funds expended. Preventing unapproved changes from being included in the reported cost or resource usage. Informing appropriate stakeholders of all approved changes and associated costs, and bringing expected cost overruns within acceptable limits. Now, what do we mean by cost overruns? Let's assume you planned a project for 120 million without rough order magnitude associated with it. Please, at the end of the day, when you have your actual cost, let the cost overrun, if any, that's over budgeted or perhaps over when the project expenditure has exceeded the proposed cost or proposed budget, let that overrun be within acceptable limits. If not, you and your stakeholder will drag it till thy kingdom come. All right, so this is where we are going to call it a day for now. And if there is any question for me, the floor will be open. Please, I would like us to just take 10 minutes so that by 6:15, we are up and back to our work, all right, and get to be on our way to work. All right, please, if there is any question for me, please, you can kindly raise your hand and then we'll take the questions. Good morning once again and welcome. All right, Ahmad Usman, I'm sure you're ready for work. All right, Ahmad, please, your mic is open. Kindly unmute from your end and give us a voice.
Okay, good morning, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, my question is under the cost estimate, sir.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I say, is it advisable for one to specifically estimate the brand, different brands? For instance, like the example you cited above, using rice, where you say the Nigerian product, the Nigerian rice and the Thailand rice. So, estimating, can one specifically or make mention of different brands?
Okay, thank you so much. If you actually take a look at most of the companies, they find out that they differentiate their prices based on different brands or models they are coming up with. So if you take, for instance, say Camry 2004, Pencil Light, okay, then you have Camry 2009 or 2010, Camry Muzzle. The fact that the difference in price is based on the different brands, all right? So you can actually use brand also, knowing fully whether each of the brand has their own quality specification. So you can use the different brands to make different costing. All right, thank you so much. All right, please, Engineer Sharif, your line is open. Kindly unmute. Kindly unmute and then go ahead. The attendance list will be passed right now. Please ensure to take your attendance. And if you're not in the WhatsApp group, the WhatsApp group link will also be shared so that those that could be joining us for the first time could go ahead and join the WhatsApp group. Okay. All right. Engineer Sharif, please oh, he has gone off. All right. Is there any other question for me? Or should we call it a day from here? All right, so if there is no question, does anybody has anything to say? I love this attitude of no question this morning so that we can all go to work. When we come back in the evening, we can ask our questions. All right, Engineer Sharif, please, you're welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, I want to quickly ask a question concerning what the last aspect we discussed.
Okay.
Why you cited an example that we don't spend our profits or our own personal our income from a project.
Yes.
Actually, it is something that happened to me this year, January to be precise. Yeah. But the question now is, you know, in contract document, there is room for flexibility when there is increase in market goods.
Yes.
When there is increase in the price of our goods or something.
That's right.
That it is allowed to be reviewed. It is allowed to be reviewed. Assuming that now, while you are now doing the work or you are doing the job, and there is additional increase in the price of what you have to use, the price of your material you have to use for the job. Is it advisable to consult your clients prior to buying the materials, or it is after you have bought it that you have to present the new price to them?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Engineer Sharif. I will just ask. All right, Engineer Sharif, I would like you to look at number 5 under the tools and techniques of determining budget. And also look at number 6. Number 5 said funding limit reconciliation. And I said, under funding limit reconciliation, where there are economic fluctuations, it's important you have a meeting with your stakeholder to let him or her know of the economic changes so that you can know how to adjust pricing, right? But at the same time, I said, we have basically 3 types of contracts, and each of them have their own subtypes. Now we have the firm fixed price contract, or what we call the lump sum contract. If you're using a lump sum contract, it is non-negotiable. After you've signed the contract and the like, you don't come back. Even if price doubles 1 million times, you don't come back. You've already signed it. So that's the lump sum. That's the firm fixed price, right? Then you have the cost reimbursable contracts. And under the cost reimbursable contract, there is another type of contract there that is called economic price or perhaps cost fee economic price adjustment. Cost fee, project cost fee plus economic price adjustment. If you foresee that there could be changes in market, it's better you use that kind of contract type where if there are changes, you can go back to your stakeholder and then rearrange or renegotiate the contract based on the present market conditions. And that is also part of the things we'll talk about, the changes. If you go back to your stakeholder and tell him that, oh, this thing we budgeted at this, it is now maybe 25% more, and this is going to increase the project by 25%. Some of the project managers will tell you, wait, let's see whether the price will come down. That's the changes we are talking about now. If he says, wait, you wait. If he says, okay, just go ahead, I will give you the 25% increase. Please remember to document it and let it be part of the update that you're going to have in your project management plan, all right? So as soon as you have the update, you can go ahead, all right? So Engineer Sharif, what I said, does it make any sense to you? Engineer Sharif, are you still there? Okay, thank you so much. All right, is there any other question for me? Okay, I'm seeing one question from the, all right, thank you so much, Monica, and thank you for coming. Please, if you do not have your presentation the first time, please, your presentation will be coming up today. So importantly, group 456 should prepare for their presentation this evening. Group 456 should prepare for their presentation this evening. And if you don't have a group yet, please, as soon as you fill the attendance form, your name will be published in the attendance sheet, right? Okay, if there is no further question, I think we can call it a day from here, and then we'll meet in the evening as scheduled. All right, thank you so much, and do enjoy a wonderful day.